Thanks, Tom. I'd say welcome to the area, but I'm being welcome to the area. No, it's great to be here, and great to see all the elected officials here and the representatives of the different offices. I too want to thank Allison and Senator Harkin for his great work in making sure that this is possible, and Peter Cook from Congressman Braley's office as well. Bruce and I came in together in 2006. We're good friends, and look forward to continuing my relationship with Bruce. I know I have big shoes to fill here in the area, but I'm looking forward to it. I have about 13 pages of remarks. Just kidding. But I really just don't want to say that much. My wife always tells me that it's better for a politician to be brief. And I have a lot amount of time, but I'm not necessarily going to take it all. I just want to make a few remarks about this center, about Congress, about renewable energy, I guess, kind of where we're going, hopefully, in the future. What this center is about is something that is what I'm about and what I've been about for a long, long time. It combines a lot of different things, as you all know, and I had a great tour, and I plan to come back there as often as I possibly can. This is really pretty darn impressive to have it here in the education corridor. It was called. I think it's a really great idea. I think we do have to start educationally at a very young age with our children, not only to be aware of the kinds of things that are being discussed here, that are being shown here, being demonstrated here, because I do think that's really important, but also so that in times of difficulty, economic difficulty that we have now, and I think at a time when, I don't want to go so far as to say culturally, but this is what I hear from a lot of folks when I'm out visiting industries, but at a time when it's just not cool necessarily for a lot of students to go into the kinds of fields that we're going to need for the future of this country, whether it's some of the tech fields that we're going to need or some of the others that are taught at community colleges. I think this kind of thing is great because it can draw these kids in at a young age, middle school kids, even earlier, and high school certainly, and especially a lot of young people who may not necessarily see a light at the end of the tunnel at the moment because their parents are struggling. Maybe they come from families, as I did when I grew up in poverty in Sioux City, and they don't see a future. This is the kind of thing where even if the kids are downtown just doing something that has nothing to do with this, maybe they'll stumble in here, they'll just happen upon this place, and they'll get some great ideas and think, wow, this is something really cool that maybe I can do in the future. And so I think it's really important from that standpoint. We got to think about the next generations to come. Yeah, we have a lot of economic problems right now in this country. There's no doubt about it. We have very high unemployment. Scott County has unacceptable unemployment. But this is an area where I think we can do a lot in the state of Iowa and around the country to get us on the right economic footing that we need. We know that the kinds of industries that are represented here have already helped Iowa dramatically. Biofuels, over 30,000 jobs. We know that solar is increasingly important. We know about wind energy. I'm proud to represent already Siemens in Fort Madison. I've been there. I'm going there again this Friday, as it turns out. Acciona up in Cedar Rapids, or Acciona in West Branch. Clipper, which is bought by United Technologies, up in Cedar Rapids. The wind farms that we're developing here in the state of Iowa. I mentioned biofuels. In an otherwise dysfunctional Congress, all right, in Washington, D.C., in December of 2009, we passed in the House of Representatives an extension of the biodiesel tax credit. But because of the dysfunction in Congress and in Washington, D.C., it sat for a year without being renewed. And that led to biodiesel plants being idled in the state of Iowa. That led to people being laid off their jobs in the state of Iowa, and it was thoroughly unacceptable. When it comes to wind energy, we did, through the Recovery Act, actually extend the production tax credit by 3 years. And Bruce Braley and I and others, and Chuck Grassley, Senator Grassley, is one of the pioneers in wind energy. This is bipartisan, folks, okay? We worked hard to get that extended for 3 years in that Recovery Act. I'd like to see that tax credit extended for at least 5 years, and maybe even longer. While it costs money, tax credits cost money, there's no doubt about it. Nonetheless, this is something that we've got to do. It's for jobs, it's for the economy, it's for getting us back on our economic feet in this country and in this region. And it's about moving the country forward in ways that we ought to move this country forward. And that is getting us off a dependence on fossil fuels and getting us into industries that are relatively clean, that produce clean products, that are good for the environment, good for future generations, and good for jobs. It's a win-win all the way around, including reducing our dependence on oil from countries that often turn out to be our enemies. That's incredibly important from a national security perspective. One other thing I want to mention, I really like this greenhouse. It's not what we normally think of when we think of greenhouses, right? There's an aspect of this that a lot of politicians don't like to talk about, but that's a personal responsibility aspect of this. You know, we can do a lot in terms of growing industries, getting the right incentives in place, doing all those things to develop this particular industry, this part of our energy portfolio. But individuals have to take some responsibility in all this as well in terms of how we lead our everyday lives. I don't want to be preachy about this by any means, right? But at the same time, I think it is important that we think about that. This is a really great example of that to tell us what we can do in our personal lives to save energy, to do the right things that we need to do to move this country forward. There are a lot more things I could talk about. I know that's scary when politicians say things like that, but I am going to end at this point, and just want to congratulate you folks on this wonderful center. I'll say ATEEC for short. Being on the Armed Services Committee, I know all about acronyms. I dream in acronyms sometimes, it seems like. This is a great one. This is a great one for me to remember. And at the end, I personally want to thank one individual in here for getting me here today, someone I've worked with during my time representing Muscatine Community College. You all know Gary Moore. You do not have a better advocate with federal legislators than Gary Moore. This guy really gets it as far as the community college system here in Eastern Iowa is concerned, and he does a fantastic job of promoting the community college in the region, so I want to recognize Gary in particular. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.